So welcome everyone to London Recovery Network's second online open access update webinar. The last one was back just before Christmas. So I'm Steve Campbell. I'm from the Drug and Alcohol Improvement Support Team at OHID at the Office for Health Improvement Disparities. But I'm here today in my role as Chair of London Recovery Network Steering Group. So thanks so much for taking the time to join us. The agenda's on the screen for today's session, so please do have a look at that. Basically, I'll run through a bit of housekeeping for the meeting, and then I'll provide a bit of a recap of the journey so far for London Recovery Network. And really for anyone that's new around or that hasn't been to previous meetings. So if I repeat stuff from last time, people forgive me for that. I'm just trying to make sure everybody's on board with what we're doing. And then once I've done that, there'll be an update from other steering group members on the website and on the community asset mapping. And then we'll get to today's spotlight sessions. So there's an automatic setting for cameras and mics to be off. So if anyone wants to ask a question at the end, we're able to activate your camera and mic. But please do keep questions until the end, or alternatively, the Q&A function is open. So one of the team will be keeping an eye on that, and we'll compile any questions that you put in there for the end. So you don't have to come on and ask them. We can do it between us, or you can come on and ask them whatever works. So the chat function is also open, so please use that for introducing yourself, connecting with others, sharing information about your service or group. Try and keep it, specifically to either service or group info. Don't put any personal contact details or information on there, please. Just keep it as we want it to be. And finally, we are recording today's webinar, so please, I hope that's okay with everybody. For anybody that's not comfortable with that, it'll be the slides and the speakers that are on the recording, and we'll crop any names that come on it. When we put it on the website afterwards, we'll crop it. So, we should be able to preserve anonymity for anyone that doesn't want to be part of that. And that's really just for people that can't make it today, so they can catch up later. Okay, so would you mind going to the next slide, please, Max? Thank you. So we'll get rolling. So as I say, I'm speaking today as chair of the London Recovery Network Steering Group, and I said last time what a privilege it had been to be part of that, really, and to be part of this group. And I have to say, I still stand by that. We've got a fabulous group of people who've really pitched in and got on board with this. And the whole thing's building nicely, which is fantastic. So what's it all about? I mean, just to reiterate, really, all it is, it's quite simple. It's a place for people to connect and learn about what's on offer out there for people seeking recovery across London. The key aim is to increase levels of knowledge and connectivity. And just as a quick recap, you can see on the slide there the LRN's mission that the steering group have agreed upon, and that's also on the website. The website is londonrecoverynetwork.org.uk. So do you mind going to the next one, please, Max? So thank you. So there's three key elements. So again, just recapping. So I'm sorry if this is old material for people, but I'll keep it brief. So three key elements to what the LRN will deliver. So quarterly open online meetings. So this is the second of those. And that's all about sharing information, making connections, looking for collaboration opportunities. It is a developmental process, and we are sort of looking at what the best ways of doing things are. Like, for example, last time we had a creative recovery emphasis, and we've just gone for sort of general updates and general spotlight sessions this time. And we're gonna consult everybody in a poll later on as to what kind of works. And this whole thing will evolve over time, and we want everyone to be part of that, and we want to take people's views on board. This is for the community. And also there is a potential, I think this is really important actually, to the London Recovery Network having a voice at strategic planning levels across London. And for those that were at the launch event in September, you might remember Alison Keating mentioning that. So Alison's head of the drug and alcohol team in OHID in London. So she's right behind this. So we haven't, you know, this has been, as I say, developmental, and we haven't really got to that point yet. But Alison's open to that, and she's spoken to other people, at senior stakeholder level across London. And that's something realistic that we can work towards, and we want people to be part of that. So we'll update further on that as soon as we can. So you can see on the slide there, so there's some pictures from the in-person event, Conway Hall in September, and then the first open online meeting. So for anyone that missed either the in-person event or the last webinar, there's a short article on the website covering the in-person event, and there's a recording of the last webinar. And the hope is, like, for example, the recording of today will get added to that, and over time we'll build up a bank that people can reflect back on and catch up whenever they want to. So that's the hope. We'll see how it goes. Okay. So yeah, so the in-person event sort of kicked the whole thing off. We had some fabulous speakers there. We heard from lots of people in recovery, but there was lots of connections made. The whole vibe of the day was positive. There was a community feel, and it really did reflect what everybody has wanted to do as part of the steering group. So it felt like we were on the right track. And we hope very much to build on that this September, and I'll update a little bit more on that shortly. Do you mind going to the next one, Max, please? Thank you. So the third element of what the steering group have committed to is the community asset mapping. So there's a little screenshot of that on the right there. We're getting an update from my colleagues from the subgroup that are developing that shortly, so I won't go on about that. But it is looking really promising. It's quite a complex process, to be honest, and people have worked really hard on it, but it's looking good. And that's just, it's all about opening up a resource for everybody that anyone can access, and that's kind of feels good to use, and has got up-to-date information, and could be a great asset for everybody, really. So that, yeah, very positive. So the flyer on the left of the screen there, you can see it's from some recent training that took place with Not Saints. And that was for people from our recovery communities across London to learn about event planning and management. And that was with a view to becoming members of the planning group for this year's event this September. So people got involved with that from various organisations, and I'm not aware of everybody, but I know there was people from B3, Woolwich Service User Project, Kairos Community, VIA, Turning Point, Change, Grow, Live, Build on Belief, and others. So really good to get those people together and start working together. And we got some feedback from that. Max, if you don't mind going to the next slide, there's some feedback on there which is positive. So it shows that, as well as people learning about the stages, the structure and promotion elements of the planning process, what's really important is that people really valued coming together and learning from each other's experience, as well as building new connections. And that is what it's all about. There's two edges to this. There's people learning stuff, meeting people, making connections, and then the people that are being supported in the community, whether that's by a professional or a peer, or whatever the kind of situation is. The more knowledge that we've all got, and the more connections that we've got, the more suggestions that we can make to the people that we're trying to help, and it just makes the whole system function better. So the steering group will now be working with people that completed that training to get a group together to start the planning for next September, which, if you don't mind going to the next one, please, Max. So where are we at with that? So basically, we're in the planning process at the moment. So all the local authority commissioners are currently writing plans for the next 3 years, because there's been a 3-year funding settlement. So we've approached commissioners who are under, a lot of pressure from different angles to support different elements of the system, and it's really not easy. But we've made the ask for support for the next 3 years, and we won't, we'll see. Not everybody will be able to support us. Some people will, and excuse me. But until we kind of know where we're at in terms of budget levels, we've got to be careful about the level of planning that we do for September. But we hope to build on the success of the last 12 months, and depending on that level of funding, we'll get the ball rolling with the September event. Hopefully we want to employ a part-time coordinator that would sit within Collective Voice. So Collective Voice have very kindly hosted the event for us today, and they've also agreed to host a role for the network, so that coordinator would get involved with planning the in-person events, would get involved with planning these meetings, would get involved with the website and the social media promotion and the mapping, and it's a really interesting role for somebody. So we'll see what comes of that, and we'll update. We'll know by the next meeting in June where we're at in terms of funding position, and so that'll be great. And a huge thank you to everybody that's funded us for this year, because you've enabled everything that's gone on to date. So really important. So thank you. So right, if you don't mind going to the next slide, please, Max. So basically now the second part of the updates from the steering group cover the community asset mapping and the website. Once we've heard those updates, we'll then get into the spotlight sessions for today. So for the next bit, I'll hand over to my colleagues, Lisa, Woody and Gareth. Over to you. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Steve. Hi, my name's Woody. I'm a recovering addict, alcoholic. Also, I am the National Connecting Communities lead for Change Grow Live, and also a passionate member of the London Recovery Network, something which has been, it's fantastic to watch it grow. And as Steve has said, it's a sort of development work in progress, but I think I'm sort of really proud of what we've achieved so far in terms of the sort of partnership working and coming together. So really pleased to be here. Just wanted to initial overview of where we are with the map. So the map is a digital asset map. So the idea was that on the website that we'll have front and central a digital asset map where you can actually find out what's going on across this great city of ours. Because I think one of the things we all know, we all recognise when we all came together, there's half of us just don't know what's going on in London. There's so many fantastic things going on in London, and providers and people and groups just don't know what is on offer. So we really wanted to highlight the fantastic resources and and opportunities that people have to get involved in things. So we're putting the map together. There's going to be different categories, and sort of what we want it to be is very sort of user friendly, very easy for people to just find out what's happening and where. Lisa will just go through the next few slides and show you, what we've developed. But one of the things that we've all recognised is that sometimes there can be a sort of cliff edge from sort of after treatment into sort of like off you pop into the world, and how vitally important it is that we link people up to things that they're passionate about. So I think the map is going to be a fantastic tool for this. I won't waffle on. I'll pass over to Lisa, who's going to do the next few slides. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Woody. Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Harston. I am the National Community Development Manager for Turning Point and a very proud member of the London Recovery Network. Just before I start going through my slides, I just want to say it is incredible to be on a call and see that there are so many people joining it who obviously are as passionate and interested about our sort of recovery community across London. And it's nice to see so many faces that I've worked with over the years. So it's lovely to see so many people. As Woody was saying, yep, we've had this really big ambition about building a London-wide recovery map. And if we could just go to the next slide, I can talk to you about the progress from the last time we talked to you about it. So I think when we met last time, we talked about the big change was us moving to a different provider. So looking to build the map through a Doddle. And we've made quite a lot of progress on that so far. So just a reminder, or for those of you who haven't been to one of these before, the mapping platform is going to, at a glance, going to be sort of a very visual tool that's going to demonstrate the breadth and depth of recovery services, activities sort of taking place across the capital. The exciting thing about the map is that as well as having the pinpoints, each of the services has its own profile. So it's sort of a mini website that will give people information on everything that's going on within the services. And this has been, with some of the initial feedback that we've had, is that this has been really, really useful for some of our smaller grassroots or fledgling services who are just getting started up, where we know building websites and and everything that goes into that is a it's a massive piece of work. And actually, this is a quite a nice, simple way of being able to get information out to people. One of the things about this platform that we've chosen to go with is that it has a traffic light system for each of the profiles. So it's not red, sort of amber green. It is sort of green and then going to shades of blue. But the idea being that a project, once it first goes on the map, is green. All the information in there has been updated within the last 6 months, so that people can, at a glance, be able to see, okay, this feels like the information is going to be reliable and in date. And then after 6 months, it starts going to a turquoise and then fully into a blue if the information hasn't been updated. The updates go out from a Doddle, so once you've got a profile on the map, they will then be contacting you to let you know how when to update it, which is really, really useful. Visitors can use the map in a number of different ways, so they can use it to search what's in their area, or they can zoom out for a wider view, a view of London. So yeah, so we're at that very first stage at the moment. If we go to the next slide, I will yeah, so map phase is phase 1. So we've got, so when we're talking about mapping here, we're also talking about the wider website, which Gareth will talk to you about, as well as the actual physical map. So on the website, we will have all of our different sort of mutual aid and peer support opportunities across London, because we recognise that, AA, NA, etc. have really, really good listings and really good up-to-date information on their website. So what we don't want to do is sort of replicate. We are in the process of plotting out drug and alcohol services, lived experience recovery organisations, and recovery activities. So at the moment, we've got 35 projects, 35 profiles added to the map. We've probably got another 20 or so in this first round before we start properly, fully launching it out. So we've made a good chunk of progress since we last met. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is sort of a very brief example around what it looks like when you visit the London Recovery Network page, with the map embedded at the top. The sort of image you've got there on the left is the sort of header from one of our profiles. So this is the wonderful Soulshine Collective, who you'll get to find out a little bit more around. What we've done is that all the information that's on these profiles is public facing, so it's taken from websites, and we've tried as best as possible to follow sort of branding colours, etc., from different organisations. Now, it might not be perfect, and we hope to work with you as we follow into the next stage of transferring profiles to organisations, which will be our next stage. And we'll be able to support and offer you training and guidance around how to make sure that your profile is exactly how you want it. But at the moment, the information has come from what we've been able to take from your websites or public facing material. The next view that you can see is the map itself. So you can see there's a number of different pins on there that are green, and then some of them are numbers. So the numbers refer to the number of projects are in that area, and the green icon is the project itself. And when you click on one of the pins, it brings up a little box, as you can see here, for Soulshine Collective, which gives just a very brief information around it. So we know that this is a lived experience and peer-led collective. It tells you when it was last updated. So this one was updated in February, and then you've got that traffic light there. So without having to go the full way into the profile, you've got at a glance a little bit of information around what the service will provide. And then there's ways for you to be able to filter information as well. And we're going to be doing a big piece of work between now and when we next meet, looking at the keywords and search terms to make sure that when you are using that to filter information, that it's pulling up what you're looking for. So there's a lot of work going on in the background to be able to make sure that what we're putting out there, by the time we put it out there, fits our needs. But it is a work in progress. So we will be coming to you for feedback, information. We're working really, really closely with the mapping provider. So yeah, it's been a really, really nice opportunity to be able to work with different organisations on this, coming together as the London Recovery Network. And there's so much good stuff. I mean, that's the thing that's been just fascinating, is there's so much really, really good stuff going on across London. So it's been a joy to work on. With that, I'm going to hand over to Gareth, who's going to talk a little bit about the website.
Thank you, Lisa. Sorry, thank you. Yeah, can we go next slide, please, Max? Thank you. Yeah, my name's Gareth. I'm marketing communications for Waythrough in London. And so I'm primarily responsible for the kind of development of the map along with colleagues. As Lisa was saying, in my kind of vision, the primary role of the website will be maps, i.e. connecting people with services, because that's what we're kind of missing, as Steve alluded to earlier. But the website will also serve additional functions. So I'm just going to talk about that a little bit. So it will become a hub for news and information related to all stakeholders of the network. So that's pretty much everybody on the school, and a lot of people who haven't even heard of us yet, but they will. So we are early stages for sure, but we'll get there. We'll have a useful links page which will link to kind of already well populated directories, because we were talking and we recognized there's no point trying to plot all of the, I mean, to give an example, Alcoholics Anonymous, they have a really good directory of events and services in London already. So there'd be no point trying to put their stuff on our map, because it would just completely clog up the map and make it wouldn't be usable. And these mapping systems fall down when you try to cram too much in. They always do. So we have to be very careful about avoiding that, and we will, which is good. The next one is contact us pages, because we need to be, we're trying to build community, and that relies on being able to two-way conversations. So we haven't quite worked out systems to do this yet, because we're all just doing this alongside our existing jobs, but as Steve said, we are working to try to get somebody to do it as part of which this will be their job. And then once we've developed these systems, we can have much more kind of open two-way conversations, which will be really good, I think. In that vein, social media accounts will be created to represent LRN, and that'll give us a kind of public platform, which will be really good. And we'll integrate them into the website so that it's all kind of one big digital presence, which will really serve us well, I think. And you can sort of imagine in years to come that events that are going on across the city that people want to sort of shout about, LRN can work with them to talk about, because the strength of this network is really the diversity of people on it, in that we're from so many different organizations. You've already heard from sort of like 5 different provider organizations, and linking those people all together can only be good for the people we're trying to support, I think, because obviously we are all technically competing for the same contracts generally, but I think if we all work together, it's better for the people who need us. And finally, and this is actually really important, I think, which is governance and core values, because we haven't got there yet, but we are working on it. And it's sort of, we need to sort of set out a stall in terms of what we do stand for and what we don't accept. So, you know, like as I was just saying, we're not aligned to any one organization, really. We represent recovery. And we need to, you know, obviously, probably all of you guys know that this sector has high turnover. And so new people who come in to the network have to sort of, you know, continue the kind of ethos of what we've all been signing up to for the last 12 months. So I think the website will set out all of these things, as well as its core function, which is connecting people to services in which they might need. I can genuinely see in a few years' time that London Recovery Network is the #1 referral route for services, because it can be used by the general public, it can be used by friends or family, it can be used by professionals, and it just makes it easy. It's just easier for everybody. So yes, there's some work to do, but we've got the right people, I think, to do it. So yeah, I don't know who's next, but I'll stop talking now. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Woody. Right, okay. Would you mind going to the next slide, please? Thank you. So that was all really, you know, exciting stuff on the mapping. It is quite, you know, I mean, I've not been heavily involved with that, but I do know that, you know, there are some challenges with some of the technical aspects of it, and you know, the team have worked really hard to overcome them, and they're working with a really solution focused provider that so it'll get there, and it'll all, you know, it's just, it takes a little bit of time, but some really good work on that. So thank you all for that. Okay, so we come next to our recovery community updates. So the idea of this is that we ask people to come along and do a bit of a spotlight session. So today we've got Foundation for Change, we've got Woolwich Service User Project, we've got mutual aid meetings for neurodiverse people, and the Soulshine Collective. So each of the presenters today have completed this is something else that we're trying out, so we'll see, you know, whether this is useful or not. But on the right of the screen there, you can see a template. So each of the presenters has completed one of those templates that will be shared in the chat when that person speaks. So that's, you know, for you to have a look at, and you know, it sort of answers questions like who are you and who do you support, what do you offer, when's the support available, where are you based, that kind of thing. And then, you know, if you want to, you can copy them, save them, and over time, if we think this is a good idea, we can build up a bank of them as well. We'll see how it goes. So right, without any further delay then, so our first session this morning is from Antonia, Foundation for Change. So just a brief intro for Foundation for Change. They are a UK charity that supports people affected by drug and alcohol addiction by using education-based learning programs to help individuals rebuild their lives and re-engage with society in sustainable ways. So with that, I will hand over to you, Antonia. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Morning, everybody. Please bear with me. I'm quite nervous about doing this, but I'm sure I'll make it through. So my name's Antonia, and I work for Foundation for Change. I worked there for about 5 years. At the moment, I'm like the comms and admin officer. But I began kind of my journey with Foundation for Change as a service user. So I'm going to start with that experience. So I moved to London in 2018. I'm from Wales, if you can't tell by the accent. And in Wales, I was very, very sick. I was very ill. I was drinking a lot, and I was in and out of hospital, and it gotten to the point where it was quite frightening for me and, you know, people that knew me, because although it was like killing me, I couldn't stop. And that was really confusing, that I was actively taking part in something that was probably going to take my life if I couldn't stop. so I did something quite radical. So I moved from my small village in Wales to southeast London. I moved to Peckham, which was like a huge difference. And I lived in a sober living house. It was a women's house, which was amazing. And my first like year or so in London was spent kind of in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I'd been to rehab a few years before, so I knew about AA, and I kind of got to know London by going to lots of different AA meetings around the city. And I'd been going for about almost a year, and I think it was I felt like I couldn't connect to the program. Like I enjoyed meeting people. I really enjoyed kind of hearing other people's stories. I enjoyed kind of like having this community that you couldn't just walk into a room and people welcome you. But I still couldn't understand like how I'd gotten to the point where I'd become so ill from drinking. And it's just like I couldn't connect to any kind of like answers about like my addiction. And I had a friend who was like, "Oh, I know about this psychology course that you can do." And I was like, "Okay, psychology is more like, okay, picking the brain apart. Maybe that will give me some kind of understanding of myself." Um, so I signed up for Psychology for Change at Foundation for Change. And I remember walking in on the first day, and the training room was set out in like a circle of chairs. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? Because a circle of chairs is very like AA like. I thought I was walking into some kind of like academic kind of environment where you'd have desks, and I bought stationery and stuff. But I stuck with it even though I was quite scared. And I think during the course, something really changed for me. It was one of the most important experiences in my recovery. The course psychology is 8 weeks, and it's 2 full days a week. And some of the stuff I learned during that course, it really changed how I saw myself. It wasn't really like academic, like all the psychological theory that you're presented with on the course it's not taught to you. It's kind of like presented in this way that you can kind of like apply your own life experiences to it and kind of, pick apart like maybe the root causes of your addiction. So I remember looking at different models of recovery, and I was like, that blew my mind, because I was like, oh my God, there's more than one model of recovery. I'd only ever thought that it was 12-step programs. And then we had a day on like attachment theory, which to me sounds like quite academic, but the way it's broken down, it's really accessible. And that kind of gave me an insight into like, my family dynamics and the way I'd grown up. And, it made me understand a lot about how that had affected me later on in life. And there's a whole day we do on trauma. It's like I was familiar with trauma, but I maybe wasn't familiar with how that was so connected to my addiction and the different kinds of trauma and the ways they can manifest in different people, and the way that, there's different responses to trauma and how that shows up in your body. And like all of a sudden, like I was understanding a lot more about like my own personal experience. And the other really, really important day for me was this whole day we did on anxiety. And I've suffered with anxiety since, I was in school. So at the end of that day, I think I had more of an understanding about anxiety than all the years of treatment I'd had with the NHS. And I'd really like understood like how that played like a role in my life and again, my addiction. And after the 8 weeks, it's quite an intense experience going through the course. And I kind of gave myself a break after that. And I kind of felt like I had to let all the knowledge settle first. And I realized what I'd gained is this like I'd become like a safe person, like I trusted in, like I'd become the safe person that I always needed. And that kind of enabled me to kind of know that it was okay that 12-step didn't work for me, that I could see that it was an amazing resource for other people, but it was okay that I couldn't connect to it. And then I started living the life that I always wanted to live. Like I started going traveling, and I started traveling alone, which something like I would have been way too anxious in the past to do. I was going on these kind of adventure holidays where you meet up with a group of people, and I wasn't scared to do that. I wasn't worried about if these people weren't in recovery, or they were going to drink in front of me. For some reason, I felt safe enough to kind of meet strangers and like hang out with them and really accept them for who they were. And I realized I gained seeing myself not just as like an addict in recovery, but like as a whole human being, which was amazing. It really changed a lot of like my confidence as well. And then lockdown happened, so that was that, and that's when I started volunteering for Foundation for Change. They didn't have an Instagram at that time, so I kind of took on the Instagram, and I was running the social media. And then I got offered like a full-time role, so I took on like all the admin, and there was a lot of admin to do. And that it kind of leads me on to, I think, what our main challenge is at the moment. So we're really struggling with fundraising at the moment. I think there's a lot more competition for fundraising. I heard somewhere that with the invention of AI, a lot more people have been able to write really effective fundraising bids. So there's like more competition. Everyone is going for the same pots of money. And we're a really small organization. There's 5 of us that work there. 3 of us are full time. We run 5 courses a year. We have psychology and we have a feminism course as well. And I think word of mouth in the recovery community is strong. Like people like really want to come and do our courses, and we're just not able to offer, many places on our courses. I think for every 1 person that does the course, there's 2 people waiting. And there's something about the way that we communicate what we do, because I think psychology and feminism for people in recovery isn't immediately like a lot of people are like, why would you teach that to people in recovery? It's not something you can understand straight away. And I think a lot of that has to do with the way we write fundraising bids, and also in our social media, like how do we communicate like the magic that we know happens on our courses to people that, want to give us money so we can reach more people with it. We have these graduation days. So at the end of the course, everyone kind of writes feedback for us, and we always say like those days are so magical because everyone's really happy they finished the course, they've bonded, they've had this incredible like experience together. And if we could just bring funders into the room and they could see that magic, then they would know how effective this is for people in recovery. And we have like 9-month reunions where people come back and they kind of have a reunion, and we get to hear from people. And quite often, they've reconnected with their families, they've gone back to education, or they've signed up to like college, they've found work. So we know like our model and our kind of approach works for people because they tell us all the time. But it's such a challenge of taking that and kind of throwing it out there so people know how magical it is. And yeah, I think that's how we struggle with fundraising, because it's kind of not completely obvious straight away. And that's it really. I don't want to go on too long. I hope everything made sense. Thank you for listening to me. And back to Steve. Thank you.
Thanks, Antonia. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us and giving us your time and letting us know about Foundation for Change. So Gareth has shared the template that I mentioned in the chat. So please do have a look at that. And any questions, perhaps Antonia, you might put your contact details in the chat, and then anyone who's got any questions, they could get in touch and give you a shout. Brilliant, thank you. So amazing stuff. So moving on now then. So our second speakers are Jazz and Rob from Woolwich Service Users Project. So What's Up? It's a grassroots charity in Woolwich. Provides practical, non-judgmental support for people experiencing homelessness, addiction, poverty, other life challenges. So they do a lot of work in partnership, and great. Well, I'll let them talk about it. So with that, over to you, Jazz and Rob. Thank you.
Hi, Steve, and hi, everyone. And I'd like to say we're really proud to be part of the London Recovery Network. I think for us, it's an amazing journey from where we started to where we are now, and to be part of this wider group of organizations and networks. I think is such an amazing achievement that you guys have done to develop this. I'd like to also follow on to Antonio. Antonio, I went through the program of Foundation for Change, and all I can say is an amazing training of personal development, and do pass my regards to Bob and Liz. I've done that journey around about, I think it was 2010, 2011, and it's roughly the same timeline I was involved with WhatsApp. So WhatsApp started off with a people in the addiction services, user-led group, a focus group that was looking at how they could set up a one-day drop-in service that could support the people that were going through recovery and addiction and homelessness. And so that's how WhatsApp started. It was the weekend service user project. It was funded in a drug and alcohol service, and it was there for about 4 years until the whole service got recommissioned and WhatsApp lost its home. So we became homeless, and that's quite ironic for a homeless charity or organization to become homeless. So about 2014, after a year being out, the previous managers, they looked for another premises, which they did find eventually at a local church. And from 1 day a week, they were open 2 days a week. So we changed our name to Woodward Service User Project. And we were servicing at that time around 80, 90 people coming through our doors. And we were offered the basics as before: showers, food, laundry services, and where there's just can be a place to come and get some support and feel safe. And then the church got planning permission. The premises we were at, they got planning permission to get their to have their place redeveloped. So then we was asked to leave. So we became homeless twice. And it was just coincidental that we found a number of premises where we are today, and that was because 2017 we become a charity, and one of the board members was a congregation of a local church, and through negotiations we were able to get the premises where we are in today. But as soon as we've got the keys, COVID hit, all our services ceased. But we still carried on doing the food service from outside our doors. We put up a gazebo and just doing food parcels. And about 3 years ago now, we've been open, fully functioned now, and today we're open 4 days a week with one additional of a Women's Day service, a Women's Only Day service, and we are again seeing around about 80, 90 people per service day with the essential services of showers, food, laundry, haircuts. But now we are working with external partners with drug and alcohol, mental health services. We have mobile dentists come in, provide for the street homeless. We work with King's College Hospital to do liver screening and Hep C testing. We work closely with the council, with the outreach workers. So I think these are one of the major successes that we have, supporting our local group, working with partners in the local area, with the local boroughs, local services. And as I said, in my journey is through the addiction services, through criminal justice services. So that is my lived experience, which I can bring to supporting the guests that come through our doors. And we have other lived experience volunteers and members of staff that works for us and supports our services. And I think one of the major challenges we have, as Antonio rightly put it, is to funding. We're not local government funded, local authority funded. So we rely on grants and bids, and it's a very challenging environment out there, as Antonio puts it, and as I can imagine everybody can relate to that. So these are our main challenges. so we have to think outside the box. So we have to look at doing fundraising events. Our biggest one we did last year was we put on a charity ball, and we invited all our business partners that's been supporting us in the local community, which we raised quite a bit of money for, which was really good. And we're hoping to put another one. We're planning to put another one in September. We have a great team of volunteers here. We've all come from all walks of life, lived in experience. And I think what I'm going to do now is pass on to Rob, who is our volunteer, and he will share his experience of his own journey. Thank you.
Hello, thanks, Jess. Yes, my name's Rob, recovering addict. I've been with WhatsApp now for about a year. Yeah, my journey basically started, I lost my job in the city due to drug use. I didn't realise it was a problem at the time, and obviously earning a good salary, I just was spending money on the wrong things in life. I lost my job and I lost my house, was basically left out to fend for myself. And obviously that increased my drug use. I then turned to depression. Substance misuse became regular occurrence rather than just recreational weekend use. It became every single day. And obviously that got me further and further into debt with no job to pay. I then basically was street homeless. So from having a house, a 2-bedroom house, to being on the street, I felt for me was very reflective, and I'm a very strong, willing person, and I thought, well, now's the time for change. I can't do this. I'm 42. I can't keep going around in circles. And then I decided to change. So I approached the council. They got me in contact with a company called Bridge Back Home. I approached Bridge Back Home. They ended up having a one-on-one key worker, which was fantastic. I then went via the drug therapy group. I completed my therapy service and still go there on a voluntary basis. So it's in my recovery journey is pretty recent. So it's totally ongoing. And then I decided to give back to the community, helping people in need. I was fortunate enough to come from a very privileged background, raised as a child, and yeah, I felt like I wanted to give back and be rooted to people going through the same as me, recovering drug addicts, alcoholics, and I decided to volunteer for WhatsApp. So I've been here since October last year, and it's fantastic. Seeing people every single day. Giving back to the community, and it's just basically helping people less fortunate than myself. Back to you, Steve.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Jazz. Thanks so much for telling us all about what goes on there at Woolwich, and thank you, Rob, for sharing your experience as well. Amazing stuff. People doing some amazing work, so it's really good for us to learn about that. So thank you so much. Right. Okay. So our third speaker is Annabelle Bootaloo she's from Community Drug and Alcohol Recovery Services in Southwest London. Oh, I'm getting an echo now on that. Anyway, so Annabelle's going to talk about 12-step groups for neurodiverse people in London. So over to you, Annabelle. Thank you.
Hi, Steve. Thank you. I hope it's not the echo from my laptop. Please let me know if it is. I just want to sort of reiterate that I am also extremely, proud and grateful to be at on the steering group of London Recovery Network. It's an amazing thing, and it can only get better. It's so incredibly well needed just to be able to find out what is going on. We often work in silos, and I think just being able to get ideas and just hear what's going on is amazing. I work for an organisation called CEDARS for part of the Wandsworth and Richmond Consortium. at the day programme. We are WRCDUS, and I am substance misuse and neurodiversity specialist within the Drug and Alcohol Service. About 5 years ago, I got diagnosed with ADHD and a lot of other things, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, things I'd never even heard of. I've been sober now, abstinent for 11 years. And when I got diagnosed about 5 years ago, it was just before lockdown. I'd been in the rooms, struggled quite a bit. I just felt a bit different. I really echo with what you sort of said, Antonia. There was, I found it very difficult writing, doing things, and it took me years and years and years to get abstinent, which obviously I'm very grateful with. But during that time, when I was waiting for my diagnosis, the 4-year process, there was no support out there. I didn't have really anyone to talk to. In a lot of meetings, you couldn't talk about neurodiversity or whatever. So working at CDARS, I just asked if I could borrow a room and started off the first neurodiverse 12-step meeting, just put an advert out on social media. And the first kind of opening day, there were about 20 people that turned up, and we've kind of been going ever since. If you can just put the next slide on, please. Thank you. And why this matters. So yeah, hundreds of thousands of people access substance misuse support each year in the UK. And neurodivergent people are pretty underrepresented in drug and alcohol services, and especially mutual aid. Many people disengage due to many different sort of barriers, rather than lack of motivation. Again, that's kind of something in services that we're trying to sort of change, especially in Wandsworth and Richmond, to become a neuro sort of inclusive environment for staff and for clients. And mutual aid works best when, you know, spaces recognise that people learn in different ways and communicate and participate. It's not one size fits all. Next slide, please. So yeah, you can see the stats for, you know, well, obviously dual diagnosis, but the neurodivergent people are at least twice as likely to have substance use disorder. It speaks for itself. Thank you. And these are just some of the core sort of barriers that people face in recovery spaces, whether it's in services or mutual aid. Sensory and environmental noises, lights. I don't know if any of you know about the sort of like meetings, there's really sort of like harsh lighting in it, sometimes really crowded, really overwhelming, really squeezed in together. I don't know, sometimes it can be quite overstimulating and overwhelming. And then there's the social communication barriers. You know, depends where you go, but that there are a lot of sort of like social rules that people have to sort of live up to a certain sort of expectation that they can't. Sensitive around eye contact and small talk is quite hard. That puts sort of people off from coming into meetings quite a lot of the time. Processing, again, is a huge barrier. I mean, that was one of my sort of things. I just couldn't speak, you know, during the meetings, was because my processing was different, and then I just didn't talk because I just didn't want to sound stupid, because I couldn't remember what had been said, or, you know, and you're coming into sort of addiction with the shame and guilt of being an addict, but being able to sort of say, for, you know, that you don't understand things, and also for a lot of people that have, you know, dyslexia, reading, writing, you know, issues, that is often just sort of taken for granted. And again, it's a huge barrier for people sort of in mutual aid. So there's executive function, participation, punctuality, an organization. We have one of our meetings, which is in Wimbledon. We actually call it Sorry I'm Late meeting, because every time someone comes in, they're like, sorry I'm late, and everyone just bursts out laughing, and that already, it sort of just normalizes people and makes people feel comfortable. And then yeah, stigma and understanding. So it can be very nuanced. There is a kind of a lack of awareness. If you're not doing it the right way, you're just not doing it the right way. I've been said that I am not working a good program, or I've got defects of character, where actually we're quite a lot of my survival skills. So, you know, it's it isn't, again, I will repeat this thing, it isn't one size fits all. Next slide, please. And the neurodiverse, affirming recovery, what we actually kind of do, we've realized very recently that most of the people that come into the neurodiverse meetings have many different substances, and we're marginalizing it, because originally we sort of started it as a AA meeting, but we are now sort of changing it to being inclusive of any substance, because a lot of people we've sort of encountered, they're like, well, we can't come there, we've got a different kind of substance. So we're now sort of like trying to turn that into something that is inclusive for everybody. We sort of help and support, you know, we talk about neurodiversity itself. We always say it's an it's an explanation, not an excuse. It doesn't mean because you've got neurodiversity that it's the answer and you can sort of like blame everything on that, but we make it sensory friendly. We've got Galaxy projectors, fidget toys, stim toys, lighting's always kind of sensory. We have like spaces for people if they want to go outside. We use sort of neurodiverse affirming language. There's a lot of humor in it. We just kind of like normalize different types of neurodiversity. We do work from a book called The 12 Steps of ADHD or Neurodiversity, but it incorporates any kind of substance, but we kind of run along those lines. No masking expectations, sort of people come in, masking is a huge thing, but when you're in an environment of like-minded people, sort of the masks sort of start slowly coming off, and you can be authentically yourself, which really we find is recovery. I call sort of these meetings of my second recovery. It's the first time I've ever really been able to be myself without a mask on. We have young people's representation. We've got loads and loads of sort of young people that are attending the meetings. Again, the fidget stimmings, lighting, the atmosphere, and we help with sort of, you know, literacy or any kind of, you know, issues that people are having. We now are starting sort of book studies. We have a men's online group. We have women and hormones. So we're just sort of expanding with as the need sort of grows. I think next slide, please. And so, yeah, these again are just sort of like little sort of like visuals. Again, visuals really help with people. We're going to put these into the core service in Wandsworth and Richmond. We're going to start using sort of symbols within the drug and alcohol service to make them sort of neuro-inclusive. And sometimes, yeah, the visuals, they really sort of do help with learning. So we've got, thank you for all the claps, but we've got sort of, yeah, many of these. We're making all these sort of slides, and yeah, they're cool. Thank you. Next one. And yeah, so we are establishing a growing and thriving community. We've got, yeah, 4 face-to-face, 1 online. We've got people coming from all over the world to the one on Sunday night, from Hawaii because there aren't sort of any of these meetings. Inclusive mutual aid increases engagement and retention. We have a lot of people from the drug and alcohol service that come to these meetings because they're on one in Balham on a Saturday night, so it's something to do. Accessibility reduces the shame, improves participation, and again, not one size fits all. Recovery spaces must adapt to people and not the other way around, because of the correlation now between, everything, including the neurodiversity, and that accessible recovery is effective recovery. Okay, next one. And yeah, these are just some of the quotes that we got at the weekend from people that attend the meetings. For the first time, I didn't have to pretend my brain worked differently. I'm not too much here, I'm just understood. Recovery finally makes sense in a language that my nervous system understands. This is the first meeting where my differences aren't corrected, they're accommodated. That one really stood out. I don't have to mask to stay sober. And yeah, nobody mistakes overwhelm for being unwilling or not trying or not doing it the right way. Thank you. And yeah, so these are just the meetings that we have currently on in person. And then there are some sort of QR codes. I think Max will put those in the chat. So there's a men's big book study, the group chat, and then at the bottom is the that's the Sunday QR code. We do have one QR code that will come up that will just link you with any of these meetings. And again, if you haven't got one in your community and you think it might be something that could help, please, my contact details, I'll put them in the chat. So yeah, it's just about sort of bringing awareness. It is a Neurodiversity Month next week, so we'll be doing quite a lot of events within Wandsworth and Richmond. But yeah, thank you. That's me.
Thanks, Annabelle. Brilliant.
Thanks, Annabelle. Brilliant.
Lots of really positive feedback. I'm getting a massive echo on my. I'll try and ignore it. Right, so brilliant. So our fourth and final speaker this morning is Banana Wild from Soulshine Collective. So Soulshine Collective, London-based, lived experience and peer-led community interest company. They create safe, inclusive spaces for emotional well-being, creative expression and collective healing. So I'll let Banana talk more about that. So I'll hand over now. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Banana. This feels like I'm like the closing show, like I'm the closing act. Yeah. Okay. So I also I'm here with one of my lovely members as well on the screen, not in person, Matthew, who I'm gonna give a little bit of time after I've just done this. But just to say, I'm really grateful. This has been great. I feel very, very excited. I'm also neurodivergent and I get very over like, woo, this is great, woo. Okay, so anyway, so Soulshine Collective is what we do is I'm in recovery myself. I got into recovery when I was 20 years old. I have been in recovery for 11 years. In that 11 years, I found out I've got autism. I found out a lot of things about myself. But one of the things that's really, made me struggle is relationships. Yeah. So you go to drug and alcohol services and it's very good. You do need to learn about drug and alcohol and you do need to learn about, things like this. But the thing that would take me back, or I've seen take people back, is communication, interaction, these types of things, not being able to be in the world. So one of the things that we do is we have a feelings group once a month, and that is for anyone. You don't have to be in addiction recovery. You can just be somebody who struggles. And what it is it's a structured format with organic content. And so what it is it's a space where you can identify with people. So we have emotional literacy. Yeah. And all of our groups are as if you are neurodivergent, as if you are LGBT, as if you are a woman. It starts with that. We don't make special groups for people. Everything is set up in that way. So that's one of the things that we do, that we offer once a month. That's in Tower Hamlets. One of the other things we do is we run creative groups. So my background is in theatre. And also I've done a lot of, I used to teach sex education in Felton Prison. I used to run a drama group in a refugee centre. I ran a like a play cut. Anyway, I've done a lot of fun things basically, and I've done poetry and all that. And so when I was working in the drug and alcohol services, I could do tiny little bits, but I couldn't dedicate my time. And this is, you know, this is actually, I keep going like this is actually where I thrive. But so I thought, you know what, I can do this. And so what happened is I've started to create these groups. So I've just developed a 12 session creative recovery, but really it's about relationships. So it is all about relationships, but we do different games, and you know, it comes to the end and you've got all of these new ways of expressing yourself and learning all about, you know, how really you're not trying to be, you think you're people pleasing, but actually you're just controlling them so they don't reject you, you know, and that's okay. You know, that's what happens, because, you know, that's, for me, I grew up being rejected, so I had to control how my mother saw me, how my dad saw me, so I wasn't rejected. But it doesn't work as an adult. I end up being alone. And as someone with neurodivergence, I've had to learn it's beautiful to not mask, but in the world I've also got to protect myself and learn about why I'm doing that, you know. Anyway, so I'll just share with you just something that I did on the weekend, because we run groups in Bob's great, and we run groups in Bob. And one of the things that we did recently is we played a game. We did a session on communication and we played a game, and the game was that I would give somebody a piece of paper. On that piece of paper it would have a word of something describing, and that person has to get up and communicate it to us in any way they want, but they can't use the words that are on the paper. Maybe they want to dance, maybe they want to speak, maybe they want to do a bit of rap, who knows. And then the rest of us have got to draw it. We got to draw what was going on. And what happened is, in this group, we managed to get the prompt was bananas in pajamas, yeah. And one person managed to get bananas in pajamas, which was great. They drew bananas in pajamas. But as a result of doing this game, we all learned about what came up for us. So somebody was being quite secretive. Why are you being secretive? It doesn't matter. It's just a game. But in these ways, when you're learning, when you do it in a more creative way, in a way that's about using what I didn't have as a child, which was play, to be honest, as a way to learn about how to communicate and how I interact with people, and that my fear of getting it wrong, because that's what it was. It was all about getting it wrong. Then we all had a laugh. And that's what, you know, when Annabelle was speaking, it's about a bit of humour. I need laughter. I need humour. It's been traumatic. Yeah, it's been traumatic. I need to give myself a break and give other people a break, you know. So anyway, bananas in pajamas. There was lots of other fun things, but it's deep. It's not just fun. It's deep. It's also deep. So yeah, so we do our workshops, and we also have specialist coaching for people who are LGBT neurodivergent. Yeah, so because we know that when you come out of rehab and all that as well, often you're made to go into this world, and if you're neurodivergent and a woman and LGBT, which I am, all of them, you know, it can be quite a lonely and scary place, you know. Anyway, so that's what we do, but Matthew's here to tell you how great we are, but also not really. Tell them whatever you like. Yeah, I'll pass it over to Matthew.
Oh, thank you so much, Banana. Oh my goodness. Everybody, my name is Matthew. I'm also in recovery. Yeah, just I think, to be very straight to the point, is yeah, I noticed that as soon as I got in this place of recovery, it's like I need to like go and just do this, because I'm coming from like fear. I'm coming from desperation of I can no longer live this life that I was living. And immediately met with just kind of like this is intensity just to like figure my life out, right? And knowing that the biggest hurdle for me was honesty, connection, and yeah, I'm a nervous person naturally, and I definitely go into spaces hyper vigilant and kind of doubting the purity of spaces. So I'm quite new to recovery myself, to be fair. It's been like 11 months, and I came to a place where I'm interested to know how do I not perform? How do I not like lie to myself? Because I do that a lot because I spent a lifetime just kind of like being nice for the sake of being nice, just to like conform and fit in. And yeah, I just as soon as I got into I found Soul Science Collective on Eventbrite, and it was just on a whim. I was coming from a place of just I'm wanting a different format of connection that is a bit more conversational based, feeling space. And I remember walking in, and just what hit me first was just like the noise of just this sense of just like sincerity, I'd say, and just this inviting energy that for me is just that's kind of what I noticed first. And then going into a question, I think remember I think it was well recently it was like which if you were to get a tattoo, what would it be? And I was like, what? I have no tattoos, by the way, but I don't I'm not used to that. I've been into many rooms, but what's interesting is that it's about putting something out there and thinking about it and digesting it and responding. And that response is whatever it is, put it out there and keep it honest. And I like that. I like the idea of going into a space and I don't have a label actually. I am just Matthew, you know, the messy Matthew, the Matthew that, it's a bit hyper, the Matthew that's like really scared. Like I want to know about me, really. That's all that matters to me right now. Is like, who am I? What can I become? And I didn't have any language about that. I didn't know I was fearful. I didn't know that sometimes I second guess. Like I was even texting Bananas like, sometimes I can go on a tangent. This is like, no, you have passion. It's fine. So what I get out of it is a mirror, honesty, possibility. It's not about, for me, having containment. It's about exploration. And that's what I go for actually. I've lived a lifetime of containment because I felt like my behavior had to be a secret and contained because it was self-deprecating, but I knew it was harming others, so I didn't want to share that. And what I've noticed with recovery, for me, it's about exploration inwards and then to integrate. And that's the word for me, which I get from Social Collective. It's about integrating into the world and being present. And why it matters for me is because I no longer want to feel like I'm detached. I want to be a part of, and that's something that is very important to my life. And I want to be around people that are also in that. And Banana is like, it's also on that journey as well. Like there's no like hierarchy, I feel. Everyone's just being really honest with where they're at. And I like the fact that we can all just share and become as we are. It's very dynamic recovery, as we know. There's peaks and troughs, and I like to explore the troughs, me personally, when things aren't going well, when things aren't going right, but also where can we learn and celebrate what we have and where we're at. And yeah, I just would suggest, just for me, I had to come from a place of curiosity, openness, but also like, yeah, like sometimes it's uncomfortable, you know, and that's the truth. Like I didn't know, like yeah, like sometimes you'll be reflected by something that maybe you didn't think of, and having to sit with that, you know, and that's the truth for me. I couldn't sit with my feelings. I couldn't sit with grief or rejection or anger. Like yeah, I couldn't sit with that, and that's something that for me I'm learning about myself and being around people that can do that as well, or honest about, yo, I can't really do that. I think that's something that is honest, and I'm really trying to like pave that in my life, pay it forward, and yeah, I'm really just appreciative of just kind of like now I'm here and I'm seeing everyone like also doing that. I was like, this is crazy. I thought I was just alone, but yeah, just thank you so much, everyone, just for doing amazing work. And yeah, Banana, keep paying it forward, man. Like we're here, man. We're here and we're alive today. Thank you.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Cheers, Matthew. I mean, what a way to wrap up the presentations. Bernard, anything else from you before I move it on?
Just
No.
that was great. Thank you, Matthew. And just to reiterate, yeah, we're a non-hierarchical service also. That is based on, yeah, we're non-hierarchical.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Well, please do put your contact in the chat for people to give you a shout if they want to. And thanks both so much for coming and sharing with us and telling us all about what goes on. It sounds amazing. So thank you. So that brings us to the end of the recovery community updates. So we will, I think, before I go on to the poll, Woody, have you been able to keep an eye on the queue? Have we got any questions from anyone?
There was only just the thing about, will the transcript be available? And I think you've touched on that already, that we're hoping to get this recording out and being put on the website.
Yeah, the recording will, but the chat won't be part of that. So if anyone wants to take contacts from it, you'll just have to copy them before the end of the meeting, if you don't mind. So all we'll have on the recording is literally the video bit and the audio. It won't have the chat on it. I mean, I think hopefully, you know, in time that the website will have a kind of function on it where people can connect, but you know, it's all in good time. But hope that's all right. Realize it's not perfect.
There was only one other. There was just one other question which I didn't quite understand. It said, "Is there a link to the job posting for the website that I can share?" I don't.
So is that for the coordinator post? Probably. Yeah.
Okay.
So not yet. So basically, we're waiting on to see our funding position for the new financial year. So from April, we are very hopeful that we'll be able to proceed with that. So as soon as that does become live, we will circulate information, or Collective Voice will actually be managing that for us. So Collective Voice will circulate that and advertise, and we'll put something on the website. I can't imagine that will all be done and dusted by the time of the next webinar. So I think, you know, by the time we get to the next one, which is in June, we'll have a kind of much fuller update on that. And so yeah, please keep an eye. So mentioned before that we wanted to do a poll. So basically, it's just a short poll. It's designed to help us understand what works really for people. You know, it's like preferred formats, themes, levels of interaction. I think I can't remember any questions on it, but there's not loads, but it's probably too much to try and do now. But if I think Maisie is going to put a link into the chat. So if you could try and copy that link to complete the poll as soon as you can. If you can try, and I know these, you know, it's a pain in it sometimes. You just say, oh yeah, I'll do it tomorrow, and it never happens. So if you can try and do it we'd appreciate it, because it'll kind of direct where we go with this stuff. There will also be a button on the website. So the button on the website that's currently to register for the webinar will change after the meeting to complete the poll. And then, you know, any and there's some free text stuff in there as well. So please make suggestions. And, you know, this is about being a useful resource for the community, you know, so, you know, please do. There's no daft suggestions, so please do. So we'll keep that open for 28 days. We've got so it'll close, I think, the 31st of March, and then we've got a steering group meeting on the 14th of April. So we will, you know, we'll look at it all then. So that just leaves me to say a huge thank you really to everyone that's participated today. You know, it's a lot to ask. People have to give up time, they have to prepare. You know, it's a bit stressful, isn't it, coming onto something like this? And, you know, it's not, you know, it is a big ask of people. So, you know, we really, really do appreciate it. And, you know, as time goes on, we'll build the community, and it'll feel less kind of stressful, and, you know, just become like a bit more normalized. And, you know, so really do appreciate it. Thank you to everyone that's attended. You know, we all really are very grateful for that. Huge thank you to Collective Voice, who've put this on for us today, who are doing loads in the background. They're managing the finances for the network. They really are being very helpful. So a huge thank you for that. So the next webinar, 9th of June, 10:30 till 12. Please do complete the suggestions on the poll, because that'll influence what we do there. And we'll update as soon as we can on that, and we'll update about anything else, you know, the roles and all of that stuff. So as soon as we can get info out, we will. So once again, thank you very much, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you.